How to create block letters. The first thing you want to start with when doing block letters is just write out whatever letters you want to have in your own writing. So in this top row you see an A, E, S, N, K, B. I've done some uppercase, some lowercase. The basic idea from here on is that we are going to outline the actual letter. Now if you outline the letter just like in a wavy line, you're creating more of like a bubble letter. If you outline the letter and you leave kind of sharp corners and make everything look like a rectangle, now we're talking block letter, okay? I personally like a block letter that is very far away from the letter as opposed to being like right next to it and making them really skinny. A lot of my students make their block letters really skinny because they're just like right on the edge of that letter. But that doesn't leave a lot of room for like if you're filling in the letter with colors or gradients, not a lot of room for like fun inside the letter. So anyway, so basically whenever you get to a point, like the end of a line or a point like this, I kind of draw just like a flat edge line. Then what you can do is you can just connect those lines and kind of mirror the line of the letter. So like the diagonal line of the A, all I did was draw a diagonal that's parallel to that line. I'm going to do the same thing on the inside. I'm going to do a horizontal here to mirror that horizontal line through the middle of the A, a diagonal over here, and then a diagonal here. Now in the inside, I'll just do a smaller version of that triangle. Then later you could go on and you could actually erase, I'm going to make it a little bit lighter in opacity, but you could erase that inside line and then you would see just the block letter left there. Okay, I'm going to keep going on this one. So if you're doing a lowercase e, again, you could do a flat line that goes sort of perpendicular to like this line of the E. And then from there you can just outline. And again, I like to get far away from that letter like I did on the top. I left a lot of space above that E. Let me get rid of that line too. So I like to leave a good space away from the actual letter, making it a big chunky block letter. In here I'm going to keep this kind of small, again leaving a lot of room to add color or any details you want to add inside the letter. For the S, I'm going to start with my perpendicular lines on the end. So there's a perpendicular line here, perpendicular here. If you don't know what perpendicular means, those are lines that cross at a 90 degrees. So I just take the sharp points of the S, add a line, and then I'm going to outline the S. So my block letter lines here just reflect the shape that we're seeing in the letter S already. For my N, I'm going to draw in my perpendicular lines and I'm going to outline the letter. For my K, same deal. And by the way, for the K, you could do the lines on these here like on a diagonal, or you could do them horizontal. It's kind of just whatever personal preference you like. A lot of times there's multiple ways to do a block letter. There's not one way. When you get done, if it looks like that letter, then you're on the right track. Okay, and then the lowercase b, it only has one straight edge there. I'm going to outline the whole letter. Draw on my little inside. And that's the first row of block letters. On the second row here, we see the name Frankie done twice. So what I've done here is I want to talk about staggering letters. So on the first Frankie, we see an F, and then we see an R. And what we see happening here is if you do halfway down on the F, here's about halfway, the R starts lower than halfway. So what's happening in this first name is there's so much staggering that you're almost going to read the top letters as one word and the bottom letters as another word, giving you like this kind of weird split effect where you can't read the name very easily. So the rule when you're staggering is that you have to take a letter, mark where about halfway would be on that letter, and your next letter cannot go below or above halfway on that letter. So basically this red name is the incorrect way to stagger. The staggering is too dramatic, the letters are too high and too low. On the second one, if we mark halfway on our F, we see that the R starts right at about halfway. This is probably even a little bit of a dramatic stagger. If I mark halfway on my R, the A is not quite above that line. So because it's below halfway just a little bit means this stagger will work, okay? If I mark halfway on my A, the N hits right about halfway. Halfway on my N here, the K hits right about halfway. Here's halfway on my K, and my I doesn't go below that line. Halfway on my I, there's the E hitting at that line. So this one is not too dramatic of a stagger. This one would work, okay? Just remember when you're staggering, let's say this is your first letter. Here's halfway. My R should not be down here. It should start right about here at the lowest. You can always go a little less stagger, have it start here, have my A here, and this is a good amount of stagger. You can still read the word. Okay, on this bottom row, what I wanted to talk about was overlapping block letters. So I did the name Desmond in capitals and then in lowercase as well. So you can basically overlap block letters in capital or lowercase. I just wanted to show you two examples. The capitals tend to be really big, sort of rectangular-like letters, and in these ones you get a lot of different sizes and dimensions. So I'm just going to start off by doing a block letter of this D. I'm just going to outline the D, do my smaller D inside. Then I'm going to outline my E. Actually, what I can do is I can just draw that E right over the D I just drew in. Then what you'd want to do is you want to come back in and erase where that E overlaps. You don't need to do this right away. You could always do it later. I'm going to draw my block letter Z, and I'm just going to have that Z go right over the E. And again, I'm going to erase where it goes over the E. When you do this in pencil, I do it every time. I just draw right over the existing letter. And again, your block letters can kind of look like however you want as long as they look like that letter. So feel free to stray from my rules a little bit as long as it's still readable. So I'm just going to kind of keep going on. Sometimes you need to patch up when you erase. My eraser's kind of big right now. Okay, so I'm going to draw this letter N right over the O, and then I'm going to come back in and I'm going to just erase this line in here. For the letter D, draw it right over that N. Come back in and just erase where you overlap. So then there's an example of overlapping lowercase letters. If I'm going to be overlapping uppercase letters, it's kind of the same. The uppercase letters are they're just a little bigger, so it's kind of easier to overlap uppercase in my opinion. So yeah, where I overlap the D, I just want to make sure I'm coming and erase that E. Same as last time, I'm going to draw in this block letter Z. And then wherever it overlapped the E, I'm just going to come in and erase. It wasn't very much. Block letter M. This is going to be a very different block letter M than I did last time. Last time it was kind of like a rounded, kind of zigzaggy M. Anyway, let's see. I will erase where this goes over the Z. Then I'm going to do a block letter O. Erase where it goes over. Feel free as you get comfortable with block letters to start sort of emphasizing. I'm going to break away from that for just one second, but like when you do a block letter Z or something fancy like that, feel free to get thicker and thinner kind of where you want to. That makes the block letters even more fun. If you're doing like an O or something like that, feel free to make this inside part really small. It kind of gives them sort of like a graffiti-ish look, but it makes them look a lot more fun, a lot more playful, versus doing like your basic text where everything is even, everything's the same. It's kind of not, I mean, I can't even make it all even. I'm just so used to not, but anyway, it does look a little bit more fun and playful if you kind of exaggerate. I'm going to do that on this N, kind of make this top part kind of big. So there we have an N. I'm going to erase where it overlaps my O and a D. It does become a little bit more challenging to read when it's overlapped. You really have to make sure your letters are neat. But again, it does look really fun. So that's how to create block letters.